Welcome back to the Fireside Chat with Peter Snell. I'm your host, Peter Snell. Glad to have you here on the show. Today we have my good friend Mark Jett. Mark Jett is a insurance advisor, is the way he actually is. He's like a consultant, so he's actually does a lot of financial advising in addition to providing insurance products and that works with folks in business. And anyway, I'm saying a lot of stuff. I'll let you kind of fill in the group on what you do. But Mark, welcome to the chat, man.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you having me on.
Sure, man.
Yeah, I like to refer myself as insurance professional. There's a lot of insurance agents, but there's not a lot of insurance professionals. And the professional does the hard things that the others don't do. It's real easy to give somebody a cheap quote and hope that your price is cheaper, but it's a harder thing to actually review the coverages, make sure people are insured the right way, and try to protect them before something happens.
Yeah, that's been my experience. So, I mean, I've known you a long time, but there's a lot of trust that goes along with that, and just being able to have a conversation and kind of think through stuff, troubleshoot it. Uh, Companies change things, but you're always my advocate. So I feel like that's, I don't know. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I used to be in that business years and years ago. Actually, I grew up in a household with a dad
right.
who was an insurance professional. So anyway, but
Yeah.
Mark, we're here about you. So let's focus on that. So one of the things we like to cover on the show is your story, like your origin story. What is it that makes you you? And so if you can harken back to the old days, and you could pick anything, but what's maybe tell a little bit about how you grew up, and a story or two that was an inflection point for really who Mark Jett is today.
Okay. Yes. I grew up in Austin, Texas, and it was always warm weather. So I grew up playing every sport, played whatever sport was in season. That was okay to do back then. You didn't have to specialize. So I always played every sport, and always was somebody that you could never tell it bothered if I lost, but I would go home and practice, and the next time I played, I wouldn't lose. I just keep practicing and practicing and practicing. So I kind of took those lessons from sports and applied those to business. In sports, you want to be part of a team, you want to help your teammates, and you also want to do your best to
Right.
help your team and not be embarrassed or not lose or whatever the case is. So I had taken those lessons and I kind of apply those to everything I do. I'm very driven and focused and try to figure out this is what I want to accomplish. And I, set my sights on that and strive to not lose and not be second best and do the best that I can do. So
Now, only child.
I am.
So only
Yeah.
child, and I should have said that with more confidence because I already know. but only child. So what was it like in the house being the center of attention, or were you the center of attention? I mean, what was it like with mom and dad being the only kiddo?
Yeah, I think it always is. I think it always was that way, where most everything revolved around me. So it was easy
Until you
to,
got married.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's easy to get caught up thinking the whole world's about you. But I learned that pretty early on. It's the whole world doesn't revolve around me. So,
Yeah.
but my parents sacrificed a lot so that I could have the advantages and things they didn't have, and so they wanted me to be able to do things they couldn't do. So they allowed me to play all the sports. I think sometimes parents want to have their success through their kids, and so
Right.
my dad kind of wanted that for me, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad case where the parents are putting undue pressure or anything.
Sure.
So, but they were great parents and always gave me a lot of support. And then, they paid for all of my college. So when I graduated, I had no college debt, which
Wow.
is unique these days, especially since I went to Baylor. because it's not probably doesn't happen very often anymore where kids go to Baylor with no debt.
Right.
So
That's amazing. So, and I remember going to your dad's memorial service. Was that a couple years ago? Was
mhm.
that? Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty neat guy. I mean, I didn't know him other than I met him, a little bit. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about your specific relationship with him and what it was like growing up in sports. I mean, was he the dad that was outside throwing a catch with you, teaching that stuff, or was it different?
Yeah, I was always mad at him for having me when he was too old because he was always too tired to keep up with me, but
Yeah.
he was always willing and always
How
out
old
there.
was he?
Oh, 30. I think it was
Yeah.
just ancient to me when I was a
Compared,
kid.
well, back in our day, I mean, our parents were all in their 20s in the most case.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but that was one of the things I didn't like was, we would play catch for a while and then they'd say I'm too tired. So I always strove. Oh, that was always one of my goals was not to be too tired for my kids and stay out there all day if they wanted me to. So,
Sure. Sure. That's good. So,
yeah.
so talk about college and you graduated from Baylor, and then I mean, you had a lot going on in college. I mean, you were um, I mean, you played D1 baseball. I mean, tell me a little bit more about your sports experience in college and what you learned from that. Like,
Sure.
what really stuck out there?
Yeah. So having played every sport growing up, I wanted to go to college and play all the sports. I didn't want to give any up. And so I went to Austin College in Sherman, Texas, a little school where I thought they would allow me to play basketball, baseball, and golf. And when I got
I
there,
forgot about golf.
yeah,
Scratch golfer.
when I got there, the basketball coach that had said I could play
Yeah.
changed his mind and said, "Nope, we're not having tryouts this year. Everybody's coming back from last year." And I played with the guys on the team, and I thought I was better than all but one of them. So,
Yeah.
but I wasn't allowed to try out and play. And then when it came down to baseball and golf, all the tournaments were the same weekends as the baseball games, and I had to
Right.
choose. And I actually chose the team that was the worst because the baseball team couldn't do without me. The golf team was pretty good without me. I could have helped, but they wouldn't miss me as much as the baseball team. So I ended up just playing baseball, and I enjoyed that. But I finally decided after 1 year, if I was just going to play baseball, I was going to go to a bigger school somewhere better where I could play if I'm just going to play one sport. So
Did you have aspirations for the majors? Like, I mean, a lot of kids do, but some don't. I don't know.
yeah, I did, and I got opportunities, and by the time I got opportunities, I was burnt out on baseball. I wasn't used to playing one sport only, and
Sure.
so after basically 5 years of one sport only, but I got invited to go to spring training with the Rangers.
That's cool.
The hitting instructor um, invited me, and I would have been in spring training with like Ivan Rodriguez and Juan Gonzalez and
That was your time.
some of these guys that
Yeah.
I would have out hit, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
but it was but that was when I was burnt out,
Yeah.
and I really all the pro scouts liked me because I was fast, and I wanted them to like me for other things other than just being fast, and so I kind of had the attitude of draft me in the first round if you really want me, or don't bother, and so they didn't bother. So
Well,
uh,
lesson learned, maybe, maybe not.
well, I think to be successful in a profession where you want to be, it could be one that makes you famous, but if you want to be a professional baseball player or golfer or basketball player, you've got to want it more than anything else.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I have no regrets about. I think I could have played professional in several sports, but I have no regrets about not doing it because I didn't want it worse than everything else. And so the people that I know that have been very successful musicians or whatever, they wanted it so bad that they wouldn't have done anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I mean,
So,
full commitment, full send.
hmm
Uh, let's transition a little bit. I'm curious about your. It would be accurate to describe you as a disciple of Jesus, I think. So,
hmm
knowing you as well as I do, but Uh, Walk us through your journey there. Like, how did you come to know Christ? What was the journey there, and um, uh, how did maybe take us up to some more current affairs with respect to your faith journey with Christ?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in a Christian home. We went to church every Sunday. We were members of a small church. And so I was always hearing the gospel. So when I was 7 years old, I decided that I don't want to go to hell. I want to accept Jesus as my savior. And
Yep.
that's, that's kind of all you need to know. But I knew it and decided that's where I wanted to, you know, I wanted to follow Jesus. And so, having been a Christian all through high school, all through college, I kind of knew the right things to do and didn't always do them, but most of the time I did follow the right path. And so, um, in college, part of that was, you know, I'm performing in my sport, knowing that I'm performing for God. I'm not performing for the coach or for anybody else. And
Right.
so, I wasn't real popular with teammates in off season um, running when I'm running for Jesus and I'm going to do my best. And
Right.
if I lap anybody, they get in trouble. And I'm like, tough luck
Run
because
faster.
I'm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So my teammates weren't happy with me sometimes,
Sure.
um, but that was, and I went to a high school where pretty much everybody drank and about half the people did drugs. And so I kind of decided early on, look, if I'm going to be an athlete, I need to do my best and I don't need to be um, distracted or not giving my best. So, I went to a party and people are like, hey, everybody's drinking. And I'm like, I'm not. And they're like all laughing, ha ha.
Right.
And then, the next party I showed up and, you know, it, they can't, they're not laughing. I'm like, I'm not drinking. And they're like, well, it's
There's
not as
nowhere to
funny as it
go with
was
it.
last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Joke's over. Right.
yeah. So, I was always real confident in who I was as a follower of Christ. And I didn't really care what other people thought. And to this day, I still don't. If you say, hey, I really like your shirt or I really hate your shirt, I don't care. Sometimes people have to tell me like 3 or 4 times they like my shirt, and I'm like, oh, thank you.
Right.
So anyway, it's been good that I can live my life and not be affected by peer pressure.
Sure.
So
Well, talk about your. We'll go back a little bit and talk about your experience at Prestonwood and getting to know. I mean, this is where you met Desiree. So, I mean, obviously, Desiree, your wife,
mhm.
obviously, who were obviously also one of my wife's best friends. So that's part of the privilege of this podcast.
Yeah,
You get to have your friends on and learn about their lives. Even so, I didn't know you were 7. That was news to me, man. I mean,
yeah.
you'd think I'd ask that question. I
We
know you're a believer. I know you've told
we
me that you know the
yeah.
gospel because I mean we've had all those conversations, but I never actually asked you your story. It's kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. I had to get on a podcast interview to do that,
Yeah, some stories are super exciting where the guy pulls the trigger and the gun misfires, but
yeah,
mine's not as exciting, but it's still powerful because it changed me and it
it,
still changes. Jesus still changes lives, and that's the part that
amen.
people can't refute when they say, "Well, I don't see him," but you can see the effects, just like the wind. You can't
Right.
see the wind, but you can see the
Yeah. How do
effects.
you know the wind's there? Because you can see its impact. That's right. That's
Yeah,
actually a really good illustration. So talk about meeting Desiree, going to Prestonwood, meeting Desiree.
yeah.
What
So
was that story?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I had a couple friends that got married in college or right after college, and I knew I wanted to get married. I just didn't have a girlfriend. That was the only problem. So, um, so all through college, I dated a little, but I was looking for somebody I wanted to marry, and so if it wasn't the right person, I would dismiss them pretty quick. So,
Sure.
um, when I was single and living in Dallas, there were about three churches where a lot of singles went. So I would go to those three churches, and um, and I was looking for the person that I wanted to marry. So when I met Desiree through one of my friends, and he had just leased this enormous house.
Was he
And
dating her already? Or did I miss that part of the story?
no,
No.
no,
Okay. Just checking.
no. My friend was a jeweler, so it worked out. Once I wanted to marry her, I could get the diamond from him.
What
But
was his name?
Johnny,
I know Johnny.
yeah,
Okay. Man, I didn't
so
know Johnny introduced you guys.
yeah,
Apparently, I need to get all my friends on the podcast so that we could get
that's
all
right.
the stories out
Yeah,
because that's awesome. But yeah,
yeah.
I probably knew that because I've met Johnny. I mean, he did some jewelry for me. Anyway,
So
keep going.
yeah, so Johnny was a friend of mine from church, and he was one of Desiree's neighbors. And so when Johnny got this new house, it was this huge house, and he's like, "You got to come see this house. It's something special." And so he's telling every friend he has, "Come see this new house that we moved into." So Desiree and I just happened to stop by this house the same night, and so I met her for about 5 minutes, and Johnny was my friend that liked to brag about everything, and so Johnny talked about all his friends that were Miss Texas and Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and Maverick dancers and Miss Teen Texas and Miss America and sidekick dancers, and so he goes on and on about all these you know hot chicks he knows. I found out. He was truthful, but it was two women. It was one that was Miss Teen Texas and Miss America, and it was
Ah,
Desiree that was the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader and a Mavs dancer. And
right, right.
But at any rate, I met her for 5 minutes, and then about a month later, Johnny had this big party. He rented out this hotel in downtown Dallas and had this huge party for all his friends, and he wants me to come. So I go to the party, and I don't know anybody there besides him and his roommate, and they're hosting the party. And so I see Desiree that I'd met for 5 minutes, and I'm like, "Hey, Johnny invited me to this party. I don't know anybody here besides Johnny and his roommate. And they're busy hosting the party. Can I hang out with you and your friends?" So she's like, "Sure." And so I enjoyed hanging out with her, and um, so she had just broken up with a boyfriend the day before,
Huh.
and
That
so
is very strikingly similar to my story with Jody.
mm,
She broke up with her boyfriend the day before we went on our first date.
Texas women don't stay lonely long. I don't know about
I get-
Kansas women.
I
But
mean, we transplanted, so maybe there's a crossover. I don't know. Anyway, keep going. So she broke up with the guy. She's now going out with you.
well, she doesn't want to go out with anybody because she just broke up. So I said, "That's
Ah,
fine. Just can we do this tomorrow?" So I talked her into doing something the next day. Um, so you know, she didn't want to date anybody. I'm like, "Fine, let's just keep doing things. We don't have to date."
So she said
So
yes to being friends, not to dating.
right. So we just
Except
kept being
for
friends.
there's 2 kids and
Yeah,
some dogs and,
yeah.
you
We
know,
eventually she decided she wanted to date me, but it
yeah,
took a while.
nice.
So
That's
yeah,
nice. So how long you been married?
that would be 26 years.
Yeah, get it right.
I gotta.
She's gonna watch this.
It's gonna be 27 later this year.
Nice,
So,
nice.
and she's one woman that wouldn't be mad because she wouldn't know how many years we've been married, and
It's not on her radar.
she
That's a
would
good point.
she would
You're
mess it
probably
up.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know
So
you're right, but
some years I remember our anniversary and she doesn't.
yeah,
So it's yeah.
that's good.
So
So, 2 kids, Braxton and
Camille.
Camille.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
was waiting for you to say it. I already know. So talk a little bit
Yeah.
about the kids and
Yeah.
your relationship with them.
So my kids are great, great kids. My daughter's 23 and she graduated college, and I like to say she joined the circus because she is on a national tour for a show called Paw Patrol Live, and she
Paw
travels.
Patrol live.
Yeah, she travels around
Interesting.
the country. That's the show that 5 and 6 year olds love the most right now. It replaced the Wiggles and Dora the Explorer.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when the Paw Patrol show comes to town, all the young kids want to go see it.
Nice.
And so it's a really neat show, but it's put on by Nickelodeon and Cirque du Soleil. So that's where I get that she joined the circus.
That's
So
Really did join the circus.
Yeah, so she's on that tour for like almost a full year, and then
Nice.
she's planning to move to New York to be on Broadway.
Oh,
So
amazing.
yeah, so I just found some good churches for her to check out when she moves to New York.
That's good. She'll need it in New
So
York.
yeah, so that's my daughter, and my son is a junior at Dallas Baptist. He's majoring in sports marketing and playing tennis on the tennis team there. So
And he's really good. Like it's
well,
interesting to watch his
compared to
maturation.
us,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, but I mean,
yeah,
you're good. I own a racket.
yeah,
That's different. So,
yeah.
well, good. So walk me through, man. We got so many rabbit trails we could take on this. So walk me through. Let's shift a little bit towards work and actually could not be work, but if you had not if let's reframe that. What one big thing are you working on or do you want to work on? Do you have a dream or are you doing something now that's really big and is going to be a is representative of a huge inflection? Talk about that. If there's a story behind that.
Sure. Yeah, as you know, when we started, I said I like to refer to myself as an insurance professional because it's real easy to um, do some parts of having an insurance agency. So my the big thing that I'm working on now is I'm trying to get my office set up so that we have people in place that can handle renters insurance and homeowners insurance and auto insurance, and pretty much every insurance in town has somebody that can handle that.
Right.
But I want some people, and I'm trying to train my staff to be really good with life insurance. And a lot of places in town can help you with term life insurance, but not a lot of people know the options you have for permanent life insurance. And there are several, and that kind of spills over into saving for retirement.
Yep.
And so those are things that people a lot of times neglect, or they pay somebody a lot of money because they feel like they don't know what they're doing. And the model with Farmers Financial Solutions is that you can get the same type of service you have from Merrill Lynch or Edward
Hmm.
Jones without paying the management fees every year.
Right.
And so I want to be able to help people where they can save their money. I used to be a CPA, so I know a little bit about taxes, and
Yep.
a lot of financial people do not. So I want to try to help people. Here's how you can pay less taxes. Here's how you can save your money. Here's how it can grow tax free.
That's
And
I think that part right there, growing tax free is really critical. I mean, I do that with you. I don't know how many policies we have now. I know they're not all engineered that way, but they're going to be. But the idea, one of the things I love about it, what am I in? A universal
variable universal
variable
life.
universal life.
Yeah.
So, and my buddy Russ, who I interviewed last week, he's I mean, that's his business also, but he's exclusively focused on essentially the infinite banking concept version of financial planning and management, and I love it because I've used it exactly the way you're supposed to. I mean, you basically use it as a banking instrument. You're your own bank,
Hmm.
so and you guys have that option, so you can get beyond just the basic insurance protection. You can use it as a financial tool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm advising young people coming out of college, how do you save for retirement? Well, if your company offers a 401k, they're giving you free money. They're giving you a match. Take it. Take all of the match they're giving you. But once you've used up all the match, if they're matching 3%,
Yep. Yep.
use up the whole 3%. Don't put another dollar into it. The 401k, the IRA, the 401b, 403b, however it's set up, it's the best way to save for retirement if they're giving you free money, because they're giving you free money.
Sure.
It's the worst way to save for retirement if they're not, because all that money is basically entered into a partnership, you and the government gets to decide how much of the split they get later.
Oh man, that's so
So
true.
if
I
you
don't think people look at it that way. They're not being.
no,
I mean, all the exposure we're getting of the waste, fraud, and abuse, and a lot of it's this insidious stuff. I think where things look good on the surface, they're designed supposedly for you, and all they are is like you said, you're in partnership with the government.
Yeah.
That's why I hate property taxes. I own my property, yet I have to pay rent to the government to live on it.
Yeah.
What an absolute the greatest one of the greatest thefts in the world, if you ask me,
Right.
are property taxes. I mean, it's absurd. Or I don't have kids that go to that school, even though I'm, and haven't for years, but somehow I still have to contribute to that because I live in the community. That's ridiculous. Why don't
Yeah.
people who have kids in the school pay for the school?
Yeah.
So, I mean, anyway, rant over. I have many more on the list of things that I don't like about the government, but
Yeah.
um, hi, I'm here
But
from the government. I'm here to help.
that's
Anyway,
right.
sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
so keep going. You were on to something with the big thing, and I keep interrupting. So,
No, no, but the when you save money, and the people that work at most financial companies are good people, and they're taught by the company how to make the company more money. So how do you make the company more money? You keep it all invested in that account because they get a management fee
yep.
on how big the account is. So they would never tell you to pay some taxes now and lower the value of the account because they're lowering their fees.
Yeah, I don't have a. I think that's a great point. I'll camp on that for a second. I don't like it. Assets under management. Oh, it's a small fee or whatever, but they're already built in incentive to look. There's nothing wrong with making money. I mean, I'm all for it. Like, but to tie that seems to be incongruent. I make more the more you keep under my umbrella. Therefore, that's a win-win. I don't see how that's a win-win.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not looking at it right. I certainly could be convinced otherwise, but that's interesting. It
Well,
just seems like it'd be more congruent towards you. I guess if they're making money and you're a smart guy, maybe that's good. But
yeah. So for you to want to pay a company 1.5% of whatever your investment is, their advice has got to be worth 1.5% every year.
yeah,
And
okay. So there's value to it. It just needs to be.
most of their advice is put it in this good mutual fund and leave it there.
Yeah,
And they gave you good advice the first year. They picked a good mutual fund for you. But year two, what advice are they giving you, right?
right.
So if you're going to put money in a good mutual fund and leave it, you should go with somebody with Farmers Financial Solutions not going to charge you, 1.5% every year versus a company that is.
Sure.
So it's got to be worth the money if you're going to pay them.
Right. I
So,
get it. You got to get a return on your
but
investment and the
yeah,
advice.
but the problem a lot of people have is they retire, they have $1 million saved, and they don't know if it's enough, and they can't figure it out, and you can't figure it out for them because you don't know what the tax rate's going to be 5 years from now.
Sure.
So when you have your money saved and the taxes have already been paid, you have a lot more freedom. You can figure out how much money do I really have, how long is this going to last me, that sort of thing.
So take me back to what's the one big thing? Like, what's the
So yeah,
are you using this as a mechanism to do something fantastic? I mean,
yeah. So the one big thing is really for every family we help, we've got to have the people and the resources to help them with their personal lines insurance, their commercial insurance, their life insurance, and their investments and saving for retirement, and their college savings plans. And like when my kids looked at colleges, half the tour is the financial aid part of the tour,
yeah,
and because we had a college savings plan, we were like, we don't need to look at this
right.
because college is already paid for. And so if we can help other people get their kids college paid for up front, then they're going to be in a lot better place, and they're not going to be stressed about filling out applications for
Sure.
college loans and that sort of thing.
So your one big thing is to give them a complete resource pool in order to have a really good, strong financial foundation.
Right.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. How's
Yeah.
it going on that? Are you
We're,
making progress?
yeah, we're making good progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a couple ladies that deal just with commercial insurance, and they're doing a good job. And got one of the girls on my team just working on life insurance, and so we're trying to do a better job there of helping more people. A lot of people got policies years ago and they didn't get the right policy because they couldn't afford it.
Right.
And somebody's got to reach out. We've got to update. And now that they can't afford it, get the right policy in place for them. And
Right.
got to have people to do those things.
100%.
So,
Good. So,
mm,
uh, what's your view on what's going on with the markets? So you and I have some, I don't know, unique perspective about that. So, or I think it is anyway. But what's
yeah,
your view on what's going on in the market, specifically tariffs? So we're a week clear of that now. What's your view?
yeah. So the trade's got to be fair. If a country's going to charge tariffs on our goods going, we've got to charge tariffs on their goods coming. So it's got to be fair trade. And so if if the trade is not fair, we need to make it fair. And
Yeah.
that may hurt short term because it hadn't always been that way, but it's you got to make it right. And sometimes you have to pay the price to get to where it is right. So
Yeah, I think that's definitely been a challenge with a lot of people in the market is they're not. It's interesting. It's just there's a lot of complaining and not everyone's been complaining about the problem. Now I should say everyone, many people have complained about the problem. Many people are now complaining about the solution. So certainly people who complain, that's just their profession apparently. But look, I mean, in our business, we buy pipe, so our steel is 25% more expensive now, and don't like that. Certainly cuts into our ability to make profits, but it's still the right thing for the country to do, and we can still make profits. Are we going to make as much? No, but there are feasts and famine in all business, and I think that's one of the things that I like about what's going on, even though it's painful, even for me personally. So, do you see any of that impact trickling into your business at all? I mean, I don't know if that's in the insurance services business. I'm not sure what the impact would be.
yeah, I mean, people are afraid to do things to fix their house up because I'm not
Yeah,
sure what's going to happen. So my roof needs to be replaced, but let me just wait and hope it doesn't cave in and create a bigger problem. So usually when you don't get something fixed, you eventually have to with a bigger problem
right,
and pay more.
right.
So it's not a good thing to see. But
What do you think of the insurance market right now in general? Like, what's your view on how they're addressing more catastrophic uh, weather events? And we've seen the fires in Hawaii and in California. I think there's some not too far fetched conspiracy theories around what's going on there, but the insurance companies have, they're in Texas. I mean, we've had Snowmageddon a few years ago. We've had Florida's had, hurricanes. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on. I think we've always had a lot going on, but it seems that the price of insurance, I know my insurance is just insane. I mean, it's just what I was paying even 3 years ago was half of what I'm paying now for home and auto. So, what
right.
are your thoughts on how insurance companies? I mean, obviously they're in the business to make money, so I mean, we got to remember this isn't a charity, and I think that gets lost when you think about the purpose of insurance and the peace of mind that it buys. That is a challenge because it's not. They're still in a for-profit business, so back to the original question, what's your view on how insurance companies are handling large scale catastrophe? And what do you think we have around the bend with respect to that?
Yeah. So, people like to point out how much they paid for insurance years ago,
Great
and
point. I just did it.
right, and they always want to pay that number.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is when prices do drop, nobody notices, nobody says thank you, nobody's glad. They're just kind of like,
We did have that a little bit during the
yeah,
pandemic.
people are kind of like, whatever,
Yeah.
it's no big deal. They don't notice, and so you could have a rate of $1,000, it drops to 600. Nobody's appreciative, nobody's glad. Everybody's happy with the $1,000 number. And then a couple years later, that 600 goes back to 1,000. Now people are throwing fits, and they
That never
they
happens.
can't
What are you
stand it.
talking about? I
Yeah,
don't call you with those kinds of
yeah.
comments.
but it does always happen. But if you see what's happened to the whole economy, and the costs of everything have gone way up, so the prices of homeowners and auto insurance has about doubled in the last 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and the prices of labor and the prices of materials have about doubled. And so insurance is trying to make a profit. It is a competitive free market. Um, so if somebody could do it cheaper, they would, but nobody can. And the insurance companies keep raising rates, and then they keep losing money. And they're like, we raised rates so we would quit losing money. And
Chasing the wind. Yeah.
so, but what people don't realize is the reinsurance companies doubled rates a couple of years ago. And so on top of all of the,
Explain the sorry to interrupt, but
yeah,
explain the reinsurance. That's a really good
yeah, it's,
segue. What's the reinsurance world? What is that?
yeah, it's about five companies that I think Warren Buffett owns all five, but they basically um, in, give insurance to the insurance companies, and they basically say if your catastrophe is over 100 million, we'll pay the rest. You pay the first 100 million.
Insurance for
And,
insurance.
yeah, it's insurance for insurance, and so all the companies they buy it. So if there is a huge catastrophe, they're not out of business. And so when those rates doubled on top of the costs of labor and the cost of materials going up, the companies really had a problem, and they're like, "We've got to do something to
Yep.
change this." So a lot of companies they non-renewed the larger homes. I mean, if you have a multi-million-dollar house, there were about 15 companies that would insure you. Now there might be two if you're lucky.
Wow.
So a lot of people have gotten out of. They don't want the big risk
Chubb
because,
should be cleaning up.
well, Chubb doubled their rates or tripled their rates and said, "Look, we only want one house in this neighborhood, so whoever's willing to pay triple, we'll take them."
Wow.
So it's
It's a tough market.
it's really tough, and
And it's a lagging indicator too. If you think about premiums coming up, they're chasing, right? I mean, they're
right,
chasing to try to account for all that. So you're going to have multiple years of high cost insurance just to get sort of the ship righted. And as I understand it, insurance they use the premium cash flow as an investment, and
hmm,
so they have two forms of income essentially. I mean, they try to make a profit on premium versus loss, but then the other side of that, they have a lot of cash flow coming in, so they use that as a way to invest the capital and make
right,
returns there as well.
hmm, yeah,
So, yeah, I've never I think that's smart business. I also struggle with it because you would think there would be some kind of, I don't know, are there regulatory limitations to that side
absolutely,
of the business? Okay.
yeah. They've got to have so much in reserves, and so that's why you have financial ratings for insurance companies. They're checking on them to make sure they have
Mhm.
enough set aside in reserves, and the state of Texas does the same thing where if you're going to be, right business in Texas, you've got to have the reserves in place. And so,
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a crossroads of insurance, all this stuff you've been talking about, the inflation. I mean, we're all seeing it in all the areas that matter in our lives. There's also, we had a sentinel event, if you will, with the energy sector where our grid failed in Texas,
mhm,
which it was bad enough that we had the weather that caused the failure, but the grid was not, ERCOT specifically, not that this is new news, but they failed to maintain the grid in such a way that it wouldn't fail during extreme weather.
when we were building it, we didn't want to pay
That's right.
for the it might freeze in Texas because that'll probably never happen.
That's right.
So when it did,
We
we
didn't
paid the
have
price.
we didn't have the
Yeah,
infrastructure to do it. We didn't have
right.
the resources to do it really. I mean, we did to an extent, but we really had to dig into that. So there was a lot. I mean, that's a whole like podcast show on its own and it's old news, but there's still concerns that that hasn't really been righted, although we have had some extreme weather and they were able to keep the grid running. But I do think it's an interesting cross section between those two industries, specifically around insurance and just energy in general. And I don't know, do you see other impacts from the energy industry into insurance? I'm not sure if that's really even the I don't know if that sparks any kind of thoughts on your side, but
Well, it certainly affects the trucking industry. So,
yeah,
we insure 18 wheelers and even all the contractors with all their trucks. That has an impact because they can't afford to do things if the price of fuel is so high. Or
right.
so.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we're really glad you're here as an audience. One of the things that makes this podcast possible, makes this content possible, is Petrovibe. That's the company that I run. Petrovibe is an oil and gas development company, and we have a project right now, Petrovibe One, that is focused on development of hydrocarbons, primarily focused on natural gas. Why is that relevant? Well, we've got an AI revolution happening, a crypto revolution happening, and there's a huge upside in demand for energy because of that. And uh, power stations are the ones, power utility grids are the ones that provide that particular uh, uh, power for these data centers that are housing the artificial intelligence. They're housing the crypto data centers, and they are power hungry. And as a result, uh, utilities are have a huge need for fuel, and that's how utilities work. They don't power doesn't just magically appear; it requires fuel. And so natural gas is the number one by a country mile, the number one fuel source. And so for power for the grid, for power utilities. And so that's why one of the reasons we like Petrovibe One as a project is there's a really good balance in the commodity mix that we have of hydrocarbons, but it does lean towards natural gas, and prices in the market are actually supporting that. And so for investors who are accredited and want to consider an investment in that future demand that's here now and our production that's going to support that, you can reach out to us at petrovibe.com and check out the project. There's a button in the right hand corner that says check out Petrovibe One. So you can click on that link and learn a little bit more about it and schedule a visit with our team to find out if it's a good fit for you. So, again, visit petrovibe.com for that. Petrovibe is the sponsor for this Fireside Chat uh, podcast, and we are excited to be together on this. So, Mark, it's been a great conversation. Appreciate you sharing your stories and your insights on all things life, financial services. It's been really good. So, thanks for
Yeah.
being here.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.